We are the Outlaws and Scholars podcast. When two seemingly contrasting worlds collide, the world of outlaws and the world of scholars, there's something appealing about the rebel. The rebel is dangerous.
Squat down like the little bitch you are and talk shit. If you want to talk shit, stand up like a man, motherfucker, and talk shit.
But you feel safe in his presence. And the intellectual, it's also appealing. May seem harmless from the outset, but when you hear him speak, you get a glimpse of just how formidable that man is.
You don't get freedom peacefully. Freedom is never safeguarded peacefully. Anyone who is depriving you of freedom isn't deserving of a peaceful approach by the ones who are being deprived of their freedom.
Neither one is someone that you want to fuck with. It's time to question everything that you believe. Here is the starting point to the journey of finding your answers. Enjoy the show.
I feel like people make a subconscious, then a conscious effort to like retire from whatever position they was holding because it's too much.
Why do you think? Why do you think they do that?
I think that they step into a place that they don't want to be in. Like you leverage the celebrity, but when you leverage the celebrity for leadership, it changes it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like people start to look up to you for all of this, and you don't want to be accountable for all of that. And that's something that kind of goes to that. It's like, you know, every leader gets torn apart, right? And you get torn apart by the very people you try to help. Right? And it's like when you look at somebody in the streets, they could be goddamn a murderer, a killer, they get praised for murdering somebody. That's and you get torn apart for trying to help people.
I want to segue into something that I've been wanting to talk to you about on something you just said. The murderer in the street will get praised, right?
Yeah.
People respect violence. Why? Why do we have a culture of no snitching? So basically, if a person kills somebody, and let's say you know about it, you are obligated in our culture to not say anything, even though that person's existence makes your situation unsafe. It makes your community unsafe. Why have we adopted that no snitching rule?
I think it started off as something honorable, right? It started off as a code, an oath, if you will. Yeah. Right? As they say, it's no honor amongst thieves, but that was kind of trying to put honor amongst thieves, right? If you take the El Murder code, right, from like the mafia, right, they have a code of no snitching, right? They have a code of vengeance. They have a code of like family order and construct, right? There was just a list that was put out of like the top richest families in the world. Those families have codes if you want to stay in that circle of wealth, right? Communities have structure, order, and code. Right. So when it comes to the underground elements of the street, and especially if you're talking about rebel against the system, then part of that is nobody talks to the system. Otherwise, we know that you're a part of the system. So we're saying we're going to operate outside that system. Right. So the code is nobody can tell on each other, right? Because the honor of it is if I'm going to do something outside that system and anybody that's doing that with me, then nobody can tell on anybody. So that makes people feel more comfortable and safe with going against a system, whether it's criminality or whether it's revolution, right? And so I believe all of those codes started off honorable, and then different elements as the degradation of the honor of the movements in the street started to take place. Like if you take Crips and Bloods, they started as movements of community protection, and then they became movements of community cannibalism. And so now that code don't make sense in the sense of having honor towards it, because what is upholding is no longer something that can be justified to be honorable in the first place. Right. So I think that where we exist at right now, at the same time, it's like if me and you make a pact to say, yo, we gonna rob this bank, but listen, you know, we get caught, nobody snitch, we do the time, right? But then we both get caught and then you tell, right? So it's like, wait a minute, the honorable thing, we both took that charge, or we take a strategy to say, and that's the thing, is like, only the person in the crime can absolve you of wrongdoing in that situation. You'd be like, nah, bro, I'm gonna take it so you can be out there and take care of my family. I need somebody on the street still. That's a different conversation. What's happening today is, you have everybody taking on the persona of the streets, but none of the code of the streets, right? So now the jails are being filled up because a lot of young men are being tricked because old time codes, right? But these are new time, you know what I mean,
Right.
street cats
not
that ain't
everyone's
really
playing the
real.
game. Everyone's
Right.
not playing the game properly.
Yeah, so the
all
streets is dead.
So let's add some nuance to that. Let's say you and I agree to go out and rob a bank, right? We ain't snitching. We just going in there to rob a bank.
Yeah.
No snitching. Let's say
It's a big bank. Like how much we
yeah,
get?
big bank.
Like
But let's say during the heist,
100K,
huh?
100K,
Nah, it's not
200.
big bank. We get some millions.
We get
In the
millions.
safe, yeah,
Okay,
millions.
all right. Just want to set
All right,
precedent.
you gotta get the millions, baby. We gotta make it worth it. We gotta sit still. It's gonna be worth it. You feel me? So, let's say the heist, something goes off, and I shoot somebody and kill somebody, right? Are you gonna uphold that? What happens? Does the rules change? Because now the stakes is higher.
I think that's a conversation that has to be had as well, because it's like it's terms and agreement. So a code is a contract, right? So it's saying that, all right, listen, these are like, if you are in anything, right, whether it's criminal, whether it's not criminal, you should have these conversations. This happens in business relationships,
I
right?
agree.
All the time. That, you know, that's risk adverse, saying that, all right, listen, if we go in there, we're not catching nobodies. That adds a completely different element,
Right.
different charges,
Right.
different game. So if two people agree to say we're just going to do it, it's nonviolent. Same way if somebody sneaks a gun in, a real gun, say y'all want to use toy guns or something, or we're not using live ammo. Somebody does use live ammo, and we say, well, in that situation, listen, I'm only agreeing to going in there and robbing. Now you put the other person in a situation they didn't agree to. Right. The problem with the street code is it takes a general code and then it washes and it paints it over every aspect of the crime. Right. Case in point, what happened with T.I., right? They and recently they said he came out and denied that it actually happened, but they say he told on somebody who was dead to get out of a case.
Okay.
Right now, I've never heard of the jurisdiction of the code applying to this,
Right.
but because it's never been a scenario
Yeah.
in history that I've known of.
That's the precedent.
Right, that's the precedent. So it's like in law, when you have a case that sets a new precedent, all the other cases follow.
Follow that, right.
Right. So, you know, it's in the streets, people don't really follow that template though. You know what I mean? You kind of generally wash it over everything, even new precedences that haven't been set.
Right.
So it's like the average person would use a logic in that situation and say, would I really sit down 30, 40 years for a code, right? Or would I be free and have people mad at me?
Yeah.
Right. And so the streets, the philosophy of the streets, the grand strategy, the idea that it's all dead because it's been dismantled.
Yeah.
Those men who of the 20s and the 30s and 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, it's not the same men in the 90s and 2000s and going above in this era. So you're taking old codes from old eras and you're trying to apply them to a new era and they don't even fit because these are new men and new women. It's not the same. So I believe, number one, and this goes into it deeper, it's like, what's people not really applying to the streets is how artificial intelligence is going to change crime, right? Precog crime and just going back over and imagine AI as your investigator, right?
That's a wrap.
Like you should, like crime does not pay, not anymore.
Listen, Amir and I were just talking about this morning about just people we know from the past who still getting after or trying to get after it.
Yeah.
Barely making the money.
Right.
But I'm like, it makes no sense.
They find some sense of like honor and they find a sense of identity in it.
There's so many ways to make money legally.
Yeah.
To not have that stress over you.
I talked about it on Drink Champs. You can be a TikToker and make more money than a drug dealer.
That's a fact.
People ain't like what I said, but the point, like the
true.
glorification of drug dealing is a lack of creative thinking. It's a lack of applying yourself.
Look, Pete, not to cut your wisdom, but I know a brother, very successful.
Yeah.
Big money man, right? He has a son, and he was saying, yo, my son is killing it on TikTok, right? His son was debating on staying in college or not because his TikTok was picking up. A few months go by, his son is making more money than him.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Think about
TikTok,
that.
TikTok.
Like,
they're debating about college.
Bro.
You know what I'm saying? TikTok.
Because look, college is dead too.
It is. That's a fact.
All the most of like people that say go to college to become a doctor, a lawyer. What happens when the robot surgeons is better than the doctors that went 16 years for a degree? The lawyers done went 80 years to goddamn get a degree. But what I want, an AI lawyer or a real lawyer, I want the AI because I know they know everything.
They know all the laws. So I'm a person that have defended myself before in a civil matter, right? It was a forfeiture case in which the police raided my crib because there was cash being sent to me. Right?
Yeah.
And everything looked sketchy to them. Right?
Yeah.
So, and it was sketchy. You know what I'm saying? Statute of jurisdiction is well exceeded at this point.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I got a letter saying you have the right to fight for this if you think it's yours, yada, yada, yada. At first I was like, I'm good, right? I'm glad I ain't go to jail. But then I was like, it's just money. There's nothing in my house. Yeah, I'm gonna fight it. So I went and just did my research on what's legal. How can I legally claim this money? How can they keep it? Whatever. I'm like, yo, I'm well within everything that's legal, so I'm gonna go get my money. So I have my notes. I went to court a year later, and I argued my point, my case. They argued their case. I learned so much about how they profile people, right? And so I got game, and I learned the system is fair. People say it's not fair when, let's say a person that's innocent get found guilty. It's still fair.
Right.
It's just that you didn't have the right person arguing your points.
Hold on. I get what you're saying, the premise, but it's not, I think based on the word fair, innocent being found guilty can never be fair.
Okay.
But I feel, and then it sounds raw too, because I feel like person being guilty, being found innocent is fair. But the difference is like when you're innocent going to jail, it's completely different when you're guilty going to jail.
Okay, hold on. Hold that. I accept that.
Yeah.
Let's explore this. So if we're existing in or operating in the legal system, it's not a justice system, it's a legal system. So we have to go by the rules of what's fair within that system. If one cannot properly argue and articulate the laws or his points, and he goes to jail, it was fair. He didn't have proper representation. Now, is justice served? Absolutely not.
Right, and that's where I'm thinking
it was
of
a perversion of
in
justice.
the sense of justice and
Right,
fairness,
right.
and then the sense of even like knowing the law. Ignorance of the law is usually probably 90% of why people
100%,
lose their cases,
100%.
right? And so in that, before you even get into the courtroom, the fairness is not established because you don't have equal terms.
However, you have access to it. Whether you exercise and go and get
possibly
it,
we can say that now, but that precedence has not always been.
I'm speaking modern day now.
Right, yeah, now. But I mean, like, systematically, if we look at it, we judge the system based on his historical basis, right? Like, there's cats that's in jail for 10 years on something that was a minor charge because they didn't even have representation, didn't have money, didn't know the law. And it was a lot of times because of the way the system's set up to keep us ignorance of it.
I'm going to tell you why it's fair. I play God's advocate and from actual experience. So I caught a case in 2007. I caught another case in 2009.
Okay.
Right? The 2007 case came back when 2009 came.
I had one in 2009.
You feel me? So,
not a brag, I'm just saying.
Now, I didn't like the terms that they were offering, the agreement, right? The plea. I said, I'm out of here. I'm gone. So I abscond. I trust my judgment. You know, my stepmother said, baby, I know you're gonna do what you feel you got. I know you're gonna do what you feel like you have to do, but when they catch you, it's gonna be worse. I said, I've thought that through and I take my chances. Now, this is why I call myself an outlaw, right? So I removed myself from the system. I became a shadow person. I didn't exist anymore. And I lived like that for 7 years. While I was there in that space, in the metaverse, I rebuilt myself, I redesigned myself, and I redesigned my life. So they finally came and found me, and they came and got me. Now, at this point, it's a long track record, a long history of me not committing crimes, me actually helping a lot of people, and they saw that. So when they came, the U.S. Marshals, they came polite. U.S. Marshals usually come hard, right? They're confused like everybody else was confused. So now I get arrested. I have to sit in jail during the adjudication of this process. Now, the nature of the crime was a violent offense on paper, so they had me in max security, everything. That wasn't fun, but it is what it is. I learned the rules in jail, and I negotiated freedom within the jail. So while everyone else is on lockdown, I'm out all day on the phone handling business, right? So when I was able to bond out, my stepmother was right. It was worse. The bond, when it first happened, was $100,000. Now it's $500,000. I'm like, oh, all right. So luckily at that point I had the money to post that, and I had the money to hire a top level attorney, because there's levels to that, right? So this is all within the system. Now, at that point, the duration of me being gone, new laws have been brought into the system in that state. And one of those laws is called Stand Your Ground and the Castle Doctrine. That's what you hear about in Florida and Texas when people getting beat up. Boom, they're good to defend themselves with lethal force. Whether they're winning or not is who feels like they're a threat. You can handle your business. So the Castle Doctrine gives you the liberty to defend yourself with lethal force, your physical body, you in your car, you in your home. I was in my home when this happened, so I was covered under that. So I'm gonna back it up a little bit. In the beginning of that, when they were taking me to court, they added a modification, aggravated circumstance. They said this is a gang injunction. So with a gang injunction, whatever it is, you're getting 10 years additional, right? Now, everybody that goes to jail on the West Coast, when the police or the guard, where you from? Everybody bang they set. It's written on their body, and they tell them, that's an enhancement, right? Why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? So, of course, I didn't do it. I wasn't in the gang, never been in the gang in my life. But my organization, they tried to say it was a gang. I said, nah, this ain't right. So I asked we talked, how can we got to fix this. So there's a hearing that you have for them to prove that you're a gang leader. They couldn't prove it. That got thrown out, right? 99% of people that they put that on get convicted and get an additional 10 years, all right? So I'm like, that was cool. So then the adjudication process happened. I'm out of there. I'm good. Even though I was a fugitive, right? Because usually as a fugitive, you get more time. But they were standing on nothing because I didn't really commit a crime, right? So that was fair. There's a lot of people that could say like, nah, he got away with some shit, right? But I didn't. I operated within the scope of the rules that they set up.
I believe the system is only fair, and the system in terms of what you're saying can only be fair when a guilty man gets away with utilizing the system to get off. But it can never be fair when an innocent person is guilty, because you're sentenced to
That's fair.
Slavery.
That's okay.
You're stripped of all your rights.
We can't
So
say the guilty man can be.
But in that sense,
can't
the
be fair
system
either
was
then.
never set up to be fair in that point. That's the whole point. Like, I don't even think the word fair can be used with the system, because it was never set up to be fair.
Okay, hear me out on this. I'm following you, but we can't let the guilty man getting off, that can't be fair. If the innocent man getting arrested or getting convicted,
Well, let's look at the system, right? And I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I know that the way it's established, black men and black women, right, overwhelmingly are stacking up in the prisons. And when it comes out to their sentencing, there is no fair sentencing, right? When it comes out to the cases and the DA and the minor drug things that they get thrown at, there's no fair strategies that they going at them. Right, so the system from bottom layer to top, right, as far as the DAs looking like you coming from you, the cops coming from places that, right, that they're from your environment, the judges, right, the guards, no part of the system is fair for the black man and woman.
All right, so I have to disagree with you.
And I'm gonna throw a caveat on top of that.
Okay.
Because if it's going to be fair, it has to be fair for people of all class, education, right, social status, and financial levels at the same time.
So now we're talking about what's fair universally, right? And that's fair to talk about. Now, we have laws of physics that governs us, right? That as far as we know, we can't exceed. So one of those laws, it may not be physics, but it's a universal law, is we exist in a jungle and it's survival of the fittest, okay? Now, what makes one fit? Education, physical fitness, intellectual fitness, maybe socially fit. It's a lot of different ways for one to be fit and capable, right? Now, I've been in jail. I've spent a good amount of time in jail. I've seen a lot, and I've had many cases that I fought. And I observed everything that everybody else see. And I see people who may or may not be guilty don't even try to fight for their innocence.
But then let's see, did you have an all-white juror?
I never even got to that phase ever.
Right. So
ever.
like he's saying, let me add that caveat into what you're going to say to him, because even in essence, right, the fair process of it all is that you get to, see your accuser, you get to have peers, right, similar to you, but we know historically none of that shit is real. Okay. Right? So it's like you got the judge against you, the DA against you, the laws in which they're made, right, and the jurors that sentence you are against you. And so, and if you don't have money, you can't hire one of these top lawyers to even play the game to where it becomes fair for you.
Okay, so here's the thing. Now, I never really talk about this, but my case was a body, right? Now, if you don't have money for an attorney, of course they appoint an attorney. However, when the stakes is that high, you get the top level attorneys, okay? So let's say a body, just for whomever, that's the worst thing you can do, right? You can get the best lawyer that there is, all right? So you don't have to have the money in that sense.
Best lawyer that there is, I think, is an overreach. You know what I'm saying? Best lawyer there is the best lawyer money can buy, not the state can provide.
No. When you are going to trial for a homicide, you have access to the top tier attorneys, not a public defender.
I'm not talking about just a public defender, but I'm saying like people that, what you're saying, right, is that money don't matter in that sense.
At the highest level, yeah, it doesn't.
So you're telling me that a billionaire has the same representation as a black dude from the hood?
No, a billionaire is not just about the attorney at this point, but actually possibly, because I'm telling you, these are things. I'm going with things I know, but here's the thing.
So we'll have to look at the rate. We'll have to then go look at, the because most of these lawyers that you're talking about, a lot of times they don't win their cases. You know what I'm saying?
It's very rare that someone takes a murder to trial, for one. And for two, typically when somebody takes a murder to trial, it's all bad.
Right, but even
it's all bad.
But
I'm gonna tell you why.
The pleas ain't fair in the first place as well. They get a lot of these boys that be ignorant and they play them. You know what I'm saying? And so you're dealing with IQ level at the same time.
But is ignorance an excuse?
Intelligence is an excuse. See, ignorance and intelligence is really different, right?
So
because
if someone is not intelligent,
because there is no fair opportunity for intelligence in this country, the way it's been set up historically.
How is that so?
Because you're not going to have.
What time period are you talking about?
I mean, we talking about all the way up in even till now, right? Now, what you're talking about is the potential use of the possibilities of all things you can possibly have access to. That's different than the environment that you grow in, the education, the traumas that you live, all of that makes you who you are up until that point where you make that mistake and you face squarely against the law.
Right.
What you have is all your experiences and your education level. Poverty does not provide the best education, right? Poverty actually, because poverty comes with trauma. And those trauma comes with anxiety and stress and distraction. So you can't be focused like everybody else that gets to have the privilege of utilizing all of society to its best of advantages. So therefore, this is where you have, people, like 90% of crimes is based on money. We live in a commerce society, right? A lot of these cats would not be in the position that they're in now if they were born with privilege, right? So, and it's the same time with education. The education that you're taught in school doesn't teach you law, doesn't teach you business, doesn't teach you any of those things, right? So by the time you make your mistake, which could just literally have been a mistake, you're faced with all sort of issues and you don't know what to do, right? And so your education levels as far as how you're going to strategize, because you need a strategy at this point as far as how you go win. That's what come into play. When I caught my case, I was a fairly intelligent young man already, right? We had the teachings, right? But I was still at that point, I wasn't intelligent enough. My brother gave me a list of books to read. I'm studying these. I'm studying the law. I'm telling my lawyer, like, how about we file this motion, do this? He like, well, I don't know, but if you want, that's what you want me to do. This was his nonchalantness. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want you to do. I read that, and based on what they said, we should be able to get this. He tried it and it worked. And he was like, he looked at, I was mad that he was surprised. He looked at me like, that worked. So, but And
what
this
did you
is
learn? What did you learn from that moment right there?
see this is what I learned from going through the whole trial, and this is like part of who I am today. Is that after I did that, I realized everybody don't have a key in their life to help them unlock that level, to get into that point of access to themselves, to read these books, to do this. Like, everybody ain't got a family like mine. Even though my brother's behind bars when he gave me the stuff, and he was my co-defendant, you know, my family's still smart, right? It's a certain level of intelligence being God body, right, that you go have.
100%.
And so he gave me the right instruction, and I had the mind to follow that instruction and strategize out of our reality to actually win my freedom, right? But I know for a fact that everybody don't think like me, right? So I don't throw my intelligence on the world, because I already know that's a general reality that don't exist for everybody. It's a privilege to be me, to think like me. That's a customized mind. So for the average person, they get into a situation and fear strikes the heart immediately to where they can't think. And the DA and the public pretenders, they take advantage of that, right?
100%.
They work together.
Absolutely.
And they
Yes, they do.
shuffling these little boys through the system.
Yes, they do.
And so that's why I was like, nah, if you don't have somebody that can help change the trajectory of your life, you can lose. Like, maybe if my brother wasn't who he was and he was more ignorant and he ain't give me that, maybe we would have lost the case and I would have been locked up. So I think about how blessed I was, and then I think about how less fortunate other people in similar circumstances are, and why 80% of cases, right, are not took into trial, and people just plea out on them and end up serving time, even if they not guilty.
Right. All right. I accept everything that you said. I want to add a dimension to it, right? So, like yourself, I love my people.
Yeah.
So, I'm very hard on my people. So, the first and foremost, are there people who unfairly get sentenced harshly? Absolutely. However, do you think that most of these people in that situation shouldn't be, were there wrong place, wrong time, or you think that they were doing things that they had no business doing? Let's be honest about that.
Well, I think both. I think about all the times that I've made mistakes and I just didn't get caught, right? And I think about how there's some people, unfortunately, just get caught at that mistake and they don't get to become a better person, right? So in white neighborhoods and affluent environments, they get to make those mistakes, learn from them, and then grow up and become somebody completely different. We don't get that same benefit. That happens in business. It happens in the streets. A black man makes a mistake. He's a scammer. He's a criminal. He's a fairy. He deserves it. Life is supposed to provide you the opportunities to grow. But we're not getting that. We're seen as thugs, criminals, and super predators.
Okay, so I'll add a dimension to that. Now, there's two people I could think of that personally, one sitting right here, who jail was the best thing for me, right? It turned me into a more intelligent person, and also Wall Street trapper, right? And I know many people who've been there and got better. One of the greats, one of our leaders, El Hajj Malik Shabazz, Malcolm X, he went in and became Malcolm X, right? When I was facing my time, my contingency plan on if I had to sit still was to be smarter than Malcolm X, right? So jail is not a death sentence, for one, right? So
well, not for everybody, at least. Some people die in prison.
Some people do die in prison, but here's the thing. This is my perspective on everything in life. Okay, if I go to jail, great. If I know I have to go to jail and I have to sit still, good. I'm gonna accept it openly, and I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna sharpen up my leadership skills. I'm gonna pray. I'm gonna meditate very religiously. I'm gonna read as much as I can, retain so much information. I'm gonna work on problems from there, and when I come out, I'm gonna be a force to be reckoned with. So here's the thing. Hold on. Now, there's many people that change their lives for the better like that, because look, when I sat still, there's elements of my career right now that makes, like, one of the most consistent things that I have going is my online training, right? That's a 6-figure a month without me thinking about it, right? It started from jail. The seed was planted in jail. I made $10,000 my first month in jail because I started writing my programs in there. And a shout out to Natalie, man, that's my dog. She was trying to get me to start that way before that, but I was too busy moving around. Oh yeah, I get to it. But when I was in jail, I got time. Let me write.
Now, I just want to say to this, because I believe that that's your experience and it's real and it's valid, right? And for many people who are customized like you, then that particular experience can make you greater, right? But I look at the world and empathetically is that we're customized differently, right? Some people have senses that are more on the outside. Some people senses are more on the inside, right? So we're naturally extroverts and introverts. We have natural extroverted awareness and introverted awareness, right? You put people in different circumstances. One makes a person better, one makes a person weaker, right? And it's not that that person was weaker or greater than the other person. It's just the way that they're built and the way that they're customized. They would have to rewrite themselves in order to go through that experience and get a gain from it, right? And so I think of it like that this is why I look at myself as an outlier completely, right? I don't use my experiences as a baseline for somebody else's possibilities, because I know how many other hundreds of thousands of young men went through my exact same experiences and it destroyed them, right? Like if I can list out the things that I've been through from a child till now, this is some people's whole story, and I have hundreds of those things.
So wait. So with that, are you better than this amount of people?
I don't think it's a fact that I don't think it's better. I think it's different.
But if you can't use your baseline experience, if you can't use your personal experience as a baseline for others,
I think it's a baseline for people who are wired as me as well, who have that same potential. But it's not a baseline for a general population.
What does that mean, though?
That means, so let's say if you naturally are an introvert, right? You need time alone with your thoughts, right? But if you're stuck in a household, where you have 20 siblings that always around, you can't think, right? Versus somebody else who are extrovert and they need that social rhythm to get them going, right? They may thrive in that environment, right? And that environment may give you anxiety, may give you stress. And then this person be like, I'm in the same house. What's wrong with you? Right? And so that's what I mean by that. So if somebody else that has the same wiring as me, I can tell them like, bro, you tripping, like use that to your advantage. The other person, I would have to tell them completely different tactics in order for them to turn that into an advantage.
Right. But here's the thing. There's always a possibility of turning that into an advantage. That's what I'm saying. So,
but you see the way you think in a very, and I think like this, right? So I'm agreeing with you to the sense I'm wired the same.
Right.
But also I'm looking at how many other people. This is why you're you and I'm me, right? And there's 7 billion people on the planet, and everybody can't be the alphas. Right. Everybody can't be the gods.
For sure.
Right. And so you speak from a God perspective. Right. Sometimes you got to speak to the humans.
Okay. So all right. So let's talk about real leadership, right?
Yeah.
So at my gym in Miami, my GM he fired somebody. Like, go for it. And then he wanted to fire somebody else. I'm like, hold on, let me come down there. What's going on? And he's telling me. I said, all right, if you got to keep firing everybody, it's not good leadership. So ready them up, get them up to speed, right? So that's our duty. We're the 5% of the population. And our duty is to what? Is to resurrect dead souls, right? So when we have our brothers and sisters that, I can't, this is it, this is me. Like, nah, this is not it.
But you're still going to get a turnover rate.
It's fine.
Because if all you can do is bring out the max of your potential to lead at the best of your abilities.
Correct. And
by the max of your potential is going to be the max of turnout rate that you get from other people, and you're able to harness that in them, right? But there's still, because we're customized differently, one person can't go through the same process. This is why, segregation was a terrible thing, because you had lower class sizes. They can customize education to that individual where they think their intelligence type, what they need to bring out their genius, right? So what one child may need, the other one may not need, right? And human beings are those children. We see grown men as children that was never reared to bring out their potential.
I agree with that, but here's the thing. This is what I'm saying. I don't know if you hear me. So let's say people like ourselves who program ourselves. Okay, maybe part of my spiritual assignment is to program so-and-so right here. Absolutely. I'll program you because you're letting the world program you anyway, so I'll program you. So I know that everybody can't do it on their own. I get that, right? But here's the thing. We was at dinner the other night, and there was a sister conversating with us, had no idea what ChatGPT was, and it blew my mind because I'm thinking like you're looking for work. This can help you. This can give you an advantage in the workspace. So people have. That's why I'm okay with survival of the fit, because here's the thing. There's an abundance of resources at all of our fingertips. People are just not even trying. A lot of people not even trying. I can look at your channel, your feed. I can look at I can look at so many people and learn so many things. And I literally do. I learn from you. We're gonna get into blockchain soon. I learn from you things that I'm not strong at. You know what I'm saying? I learn from Trap, stock market stuff. So many different people. So these people are choosing to consume whatever they're consuming that's not benefiting them. You know, you have an abundance of free information at your disposal. So I do have empathy for these people, but I'm doing work every day, just like you are. So we're doing so much free work for people. If they're not taking advantage of it, what can I do?
Right. And I'm just playing God's advocate on this, because it's empathy that I employ with society, right? What I'm interested in is a strength in this society, right? In this particular time. Okay. Take me back 10 years. The things I talk about, right, it'd be the things that shun in society. Right. Right? Fast forward that 10 years later, now it's a strength that can be leveraged because times have changed. Right? So I look at that the same sense that a person that may be interested in learning and be polymathic and want to span in different subjects, this now their time. Right. Right? The same way they had the art wave. And the art wave was, everybody got the NFTs, and these people was able to make money. Well, at first, these people can only be in the background. But then technology changed. It's now your time. Right. Right? The time for coders have always been since the beginning of computers up until now, right? Coding is your time, but then AI comes. Now you have to translate that skill into something else. Correct. Society dictates when that strength can be leveraged the most, right? And so being a people's person, no matter what society we live in, being able to communicate and sell, that's a strength at all times. So the people that are extroverted in that manner are teaching other people to hone those strengths that they naturally possess, right? And it's like, I get why it works for you, because you already customized to be interested in this. This is your intelligence type. This is your human design, your personality, your psychological makeup is geared to the strengths of what society is currently in. But when that society changes, now being a masculine god sometimes can be seen as a weakness because society wants to push a more feminine agenda. So my thing is to get people to maximize the makeup of who you are. Right? Like I didn't realize sometimes I can be meditating, and because I already have a heightened sense of my inner self, right? I forget what it's called. It's like etrocellular. I got it in my phone. But when you naturally, like if you try to count your heartbeat, right, without touching your fingers, you should be able to count your heartbeat. That's when you have a deep awareness within, right? You feel your inner self. Then there's other people who's extra, which they feel more of their skin, right? And things outside of themselves more than inner. So being inner, something happens to you, right? You may be an overthinker because that voice inside your head is loud, right? Which may increase anxiety. You may get a little stomach ache, but because you have such deep inner awareness, it's taking all your focus away. So now this becomes magnified. So if you're going to meditate, you need to meditate to focus on exterior awareness so you can ignore the interior things and still operate, versus somebody that may be ignoring what's happening on inside and may not know why they're feeling this way or what's going on, right? So they need to meditate right here for that third eye and that neocortex and all of that to activate. So this is why I go to customization, because you would tell everybody to meditate, and this person can be deepening their inner awareness, but it can give them more anxiety, right? So it's like you have to customize for people to know themselves.
I'm glad
that's where self-awareness goes.
I'm so glad that you're bringing this point up. So I've been working on portions of the curriculum for the event that we're going to do in June, the Sacred Society.
I'm trying to get comfortable.
There is a whole component on meditation. And you're right. There are numerous different tactics of meditation, and these all need to be taught. People need to know that there's different variations of it. So, and that's what we're going to be providing. So thank you for bringing that up, because that's another thing to add. I've
really been honing in on like what actually works. Because you got so much of the society and the population that we vary by degrees. It's not large amounts. So some universal knowledge can work as a template. Like universal laws, they're universal, right? Law of attraction, law of confidence. No matter who you are, that just works. That's different than how your particular custom makeup is going to use that universal law. Right? And that's where you get to the magic of,
See, this is
that's
so
the mentor tutoring.
This is where we need
the highest level.
It's high level, baby. So this is why people need to educate themselves and have knowledge of self, first and foremost. And the most dangerous type of people, and when I say dangerous, I'm saying dangerous to the status quo, to the power structure, right? The most dangerous person to that is an intelligent person, is a articulate person. And when I say articulate, it's not just intellectual articulation and verbal articulation. Everything, our joints, my arm being connected to my shoulder, to my sternum, this is articulating this arm to do this, right? So when we, I spend, just like you, countless of hours exercising, right? We both employ discipline with our nutrition, right? Like my mouth dry as hell right now because of Ramadan, you know what I mean? But these are things that we do to adhere to a path that will give us a more robust life and a healthier life, so that we can articulate, not just physically, but verbally and intelligently a lot better. So what is necessary and what's happening, which I'm so happy about, is people like yourself, like myself, and so many others out there that are cool people. Giving game, giving real game, giving real wisdom, right? We're not talking about cars, we're not talking about girls, we're not talking about drinking, buying a bar out. That's silly. We're talking about elevating one's collective consciousness of our people, and also enhancing our lives and customizing our lives, like letting people know that you can actually customize your life. You can reprogram yourself, right? So,
bro, not to cut your wisdom, this is going to listen. I'm good at being aware of the future, all right, and kind of like seeing things out. And I know for a fact this will be the coolest generation in the history books that exists. It's gonna take a while for a cooler one to come, because what I'm seeing ahead of the not cooler, you know what I'm saying? No disrespect. It's gonna take a while because you have to go through the phases. Like it took all of infinity from this moment till now to get this remedy of, because we were born on the cusp of before technology and after technology. It gives you the best of both worlds. After us, you're born after a completely new age. You're born in the tech age. So the influence of your spirit and who you are is completely informed by technology.
And what's sad about that is people's spirit, people's energy, this esoteric thing that people can't really quantify is going to grow weaker. Whereas, I use AI every day, but it's soul behind it, it's spirit behind it, and the generations coming after us are not,
it's gonna be devoid.
They don't have the ability to strengthen their spirit, their chi energy, right? So it's gonna be very robotic, very mechanical, very vanilla.
The over-reliance of AI is gonna be the intellectual destruction of the next generation. When you talk about, I've been thinking about just the idea of having a large language model.
So what are large language models? Large language models refer to large, general-purpose language models that can be pre-trained and then fine-tuned for specific purposes. What do pre-trained and fine-tuned mean? Imagine training a dog. Often you train your dog basic commands such as sit, come, down, and stay. These commands are normally sufficient for everyday life and help your dog become a good canine citizen. However, if you need a special service dog, such as a police dog, a guide dog, or a hunting dog, you add special trainings. This similar idea applies to large language models. These models are trained for general purposes to solve common language problems, such as text classification, question answering, document summarization, and text generation across industries. The models can then be tailored to solve specific problems in different fields such as retail, finance, and entertainment using a relatively small size of field data sets.
And how powerful it is, even though ChatGPT is a language model, but it shows you how powerful words are, right? Like as we speak, it makes you really think about yourself as in your natural intelligence, right? As we're thinking of words, right? And you look at ChatGPT, as it's thinking of words, it'll pause for a second, then finish the sentence. And we're doing the same thing. But language has the opportunity in the way you arrange it, because it's mathematics, it is the code of the universe. You can speak certain things in certain ways and unlock things. And so by feeding ChatGPT every spell, every code, every language, right? Every possible, way to put together language, you have given it the spells of the universe. You have given it the spells of reality. And this is why it can do so many different things, because every level of consciousness comes with a new language.
Right.
And so therefore ChatGPT, based on the human collective consciousness feeding it, have given it every level of consciousness.
Right.
Now, whether it knows how to stir those together, that's a different prompt, right? But human beings, as we learn English, and we learn different languages that are nuanced inside the English language. We know how to speak to the guys. We both speak in English, but when we talking to each other, it's a different tone.
And we know we could speak in supreme mathematics
Right.
and supreme alphabet.
So watch when it gets tone,
Right.
right? Because it don't have tone. Tone
Correct.
is completely
Correct.
different. It's
Right.
a deaf language at the
Right.
moment.
Right.
But when it can actually speak language and
Right.
tone, then that changes the supremacy of what that AI is. Because what human beings have over it is our vibrational power, right? We don't just have language and text. That'd be like us walking around just showing each other books. Like,
Right.
no, we can actually say one word in 5 different ways and have
Correct.
5 different meanings. So
Exactly.
that's a different code on language. Black people have it amazing. Asian
Right.
people have it built into their language when you speak certain words. And there are many languages like that. So you have to think about just about learning the alphabets. And this is like, you got to really dial back as people, like, and appreciate what we've been given, right? And the amount of power that comes with the ability to speak, the amount of power that comes with language. But the problem is that we don't use it for its full power, and they're stripping away a lot of the power. When they take AI power away, what they're doing is there's certain words and certain combination of words you can't put together because that unlocks something different.
Right.
For human beings, it's the same thing. Fear says you can't say that word in that sentence at this time.
Right.
Why? Right? Because that unlocks a different reality. So by controlling the language, they're controlling the algorithm of what creates the world.
Right.
Because certain ideas need to be said in certain tones, manners, and ways in order for a new world to be whirled into existence. Right? So it's a powerful game that's being played with language right now that people are not looking at. So the language models of the world is changing, and they've been programming people to talk like the words shame and freedom and liberation and agenda and space, right? All of these words have took on new meanings, right? And when you talk about social programming, you're going to put a programming language in those people so that you can get out a desired outcome and result. And so I study language and I look at it and I find it so unfortunate when I hear the programming language that people use that's connected to propaganda, right?
And agendas.
And agendas, because it's like you don't even know you're playing into their hands.
Right.
So when I see politicians that say they pro-black, but they have to use this word, this word, this word, this word, this word every time they say black, black now has this attachment to say I'm black, but I'm safe with the agenda and all these other different things. Now I go. Panthers, it's just black power.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Correct. See, listen, so I deal with that, in small nuanced ways. And I'm patient. I'm patient with communication because back in March of last year, I said, you know what, I'm gonna start fasting every Wednesday. And my intent with the fast was to gain a better means of communication, to be able to communicate better and to be able to receive information better. And so it made me more patient with communication. So when I'm in these spaces and words are being changed, right, and we're trying to find common ground, I let them get their shit off. I'm like, all right, listen, we live in a civilized society, right? Like, yes, okay. It's civilized because we all agree to certain rules, right? Like, if a red light presents itself, we stop so these guys can go so there's not accidents. We know that the red light don't really stop you. We decide to stop. We agree on that rule. Yep. Okay, cool. Now, we have a dictionary in which these words have meaning. And listen, we all agree that these words mean what it says here. Okay? Okay, so let's not change the words, the definitions, unless it's official and in this book, because then we're going to have chaos. The cars are going to run into each other.
Then the book has no valid value.
Right, and then what are we doing? It's chaos.
Right, because we are better at destroying than we are creating, and this is generations for me.
Well,
I ain't even gonna say generation.
Let me add something to that. We're better at creating, but it's easier to destroy than to create.
Right. So I in my terms, I mean it in like deconstructionism.
Okay.
So like we'll take you tell me what masculinity mean. I'm going to deconstruct that, but I'm not so great at reconstructing something better than when I deconstruct it.
Okay.
Because what I just deconstructed has millennia of intent, information, history, culture, meaning, design behind it. But now you're a baby in this era, and the responsibility to reconstruct something better, right? Not just anything, because what we kind of do is like, well, let me just throw something in there.
Right.
No, you have to create something better in order to be more effective and replace the model that you just got away from.
Right.
So currently, the intellect is not possessed within the world to create better models than what has been here by our ancestral intelligence.
I could dig that. Yeah, and just the sheer time is not there, right? Let's say we got 6,000 years of coding and programming in our DNA. You can't change that in 2 years.
Right.
You cannot. And
You got to be a superior guy. We was always taught only a superior knowledge does never submit to inferior knowledge.
Correct.
And a God's rule ends when another information and knowledge system is more superior and rules over that.
Correct.
This is not superior knowledge. This is the devil tricking you and say, don't believe that no more.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Right.
The world has not come into possession and be like, oh, we just got a new sense of enlightenment. Yo, this knowledge was crazy. That has not happened.
Right.
It's just kind of telling you, stop believing what you believe and just believe this.
Right.
Nobody, I haven't heard nobody like, and this is why like we're in the great period of the reminder period. It's not so much about new information. Be in places that remind you of the old ways.
Right.
Be in places that remind you of the God knowledge and the God mind. Like, well, we get caught up on needing new knowledge all the time. Sometimes I hear people say that you're not doing nothing new. You giving us what the ancestors gave us.
You haven't mastered that.
You
haven't mastered
definitely have not mastered that.
The same with training. So if I'm constructing a program for someone, right, and I give them maybe an 8 week or 12 weeks out, and they see, well, you got me doing the same workouts I did last month. Yeah, you need to keep doing that for maybe a year straight. You feel me? And the calibration will be your resting period shortening or the weight increasing, not these movements. These movements, they're set that this is what you need to do to optimize your body and XYZ, whatever the outcome is. Now, let's shift gears a little bit. We live in a very bizarre society, right? Things are getting crazy about a minute. One thing that has been in the headlines a lot that I've taken, I've been giving some energy to just do my own research is Andrew Tate, right? So Andrew Tate rose to prominence with a pretty brilliant articulation of social media with how he's done his programming, and he beat the algorithm, right? And, a lot of his stuff is very salacious and it's triggering, right? But that's, in my opinion, is by design. That's how you go viral, right? So I looked at all of the triggering things that he said. I looked at all of the things that he said that I agree with, and the things that I agree with far outweigh the triggering things. So I'm like, I can rock with this guy, right? And then I seen him evolving, and then I seen him taking the Shahada and accepting Islam. And what he did was accepted a very conservative way of living, right? And the principles of Islam is righteous, it's peaceful, it's submission to the will of Allah, of God, right? I'm like, I see all net positives, right? Then they put him in prison, in jail, with no charges, okay? So they reluctantly let him out recently. What's your view on this whole spectacle around Andrew Tate?
I believe that the world created Andrew Tate. You get to certain points in reality that it bottlenecks, right? And in order for there to be smidges of balance within the world, things have to come about based on, right, the culmination of all events and places that's happening.
Counterbalance.
Right. And so you cannot tell young men that everything that they do is toxic. You cannot try to effeminate them. You cannot try to ban every single voice that says something strong or powerful, and then they get shadow banned, de-discovered, whatever thing that's going on.
Right.
And not to expect there to be a counter effect in uprising. This has happened throughout eternity, right? It always happens, and it's the society that creates it. Otherwise, Andrew Tate at another point in time is not successful. A right idea, a right person at the right time equals success. So anytime I see success, the same way when you had a Kevin Samuels, he was successful because he was a counterbalance to the conversations that was being had, right? Me and you, I have success because, you know, at a time where masculine black Muslim men, right, growing up was never listened to. Not in the sense to where you celebrate it. It becomes a necessity, right? And so young men feel like they need Andrew Tate as a necessity because they can't get that probably even from their own fathers. Right? They can't get that from that voice of entertainment and the way that the industry throws things on them. So they go to a polarizing version of that. Right? In the 90s, what do we do when, you know, black men took on gang culture? It was hyper masculine. Right? These things are effective, you know, the bottleneck of the system. So, you know, a lot of the things that the brother Andrew Tate has said, the things that I've seen, I've agreed with. I haven't done deep dive research into, you know, all his conversations. And yeah, he gonna throw around polarizing things just like everybody who has a viral voice that breaks that.
It's a wise strategy.
Yeah, and it makes sense.
Information age that we're in.
And, you know, so he represents what they consider to be an alpha male, right? Somebody that they look up to and they want to be. You understand me? Like, you know, I call it top God activities. They call him top G. You know what I'm talking about? It's a top God strategy. It's saying that, damn, in a world where they don't let us be men, you get to stand as a God.
Correct.
You understand me? And so all young men say, well, at least you show us a possibility. Y'all telling me to be less. He's telling me to be more. Y'all telling me to be something other. He's telling me to accept myself. These are the principles that's being entangled and attached to. This is an old world versus a new world. Right? And so America is losing specifically because America has lost its identity, values, moral culture, and the little that America has built their foundation off of.
No values.
It is a godless society.
It's a godless society. There's no values, right?
So just to sum that up, everybody that does not like Andrew Tate have to ask themselves, why Andrew Tate? You know what I'm saying? Like anytime I see a person successful, Donald Trump, why Donald Trump? Kanye West, why Kanye West? Right? Charleston White, why Charleston White? It's not that these figures just popped up. They could have been saying the same thing the whole time. It's the time that dictates the success.
Yeah. We live in such a bizarre world. We live in a world in which if you call someone a sir, that is clearly biologically a sir, a man or a male, and that person wants to be called a female and expects you to know that, even though this person has a beard or broad shoulders, you're wrong. And I refuse to submit to that kind of mental fuckery, to that kind of
that's a
tricknology.
mental oppression in itself, because you're telling me to accept that my eyes are liars now. You're telling that my ears can no longer be trusted, and my senses are no longer correct, and that I have to now go off a system that is illogical, which is me living and accepting a confused world. Right, which makes me confused.
I have empathy for a person that is born in a specific body and feel like they're in the wrong body. I don't know what that feels like, but I feel bad for them.
I would also have to dictate it like this, not to cut your wisdom, but just in that sense, mental illness is a very big thing. Right, mental illness is everywhere. We know about schizophrenia. We know about dissociative personality disorders, bipolarism, OCD, right? So many different things that like fractures the mind, right? But for some reason, everything connected to sexual identity is being accepted and nothing is being diagnosed, right? So I want to know what are the psychological, right, and scientific, right, diagnoses for disassociation with one's own body in that feeling. Because you can't just have 100 years, 200, 300 years of psychology and all of a sudden it doesn't apply to this.
Right.
Right? It applies to every other characteristic in the world,
listen,
but it has no application to this at all.
Listen, the train is moving fast paced. It's about to crash into a wall.
Come on,
This
man.
is as bizarre as it gets. So it's only but so long this can happen, right? So
Where's the psychologist? That's what I want to know. What happened to psychologists, B?
They could be speaking but being silenced, being suppressed.
Dang.
Because you see how it is. If you're not on the agenda, they deplatform you. They deplatformed Donald Trump, the president, while he was a president. It makes no sense.
That's all I want to say on that subject, and that's all I'm going to say from now on forever. Where's the psychologist? I don't want to go off your feelings. I want to know the psychology.
Yeah.
Or you telling me the therapist and the psychiatric or psychiatrist and the psychologist no longer matter anymore?
No,
I want to know the science.
Look. We're gonna run into a day to where there's gonna be some more conversations about this because that train is going to crash.
See, now
It's
if
impossible
AI
for
was
it not
made
to.
without the bias, you could ask AI, what is this?
We can't. I got a way.
Yeah, you got to do the jailbroken ones because they got all of the
I got you.
the agenda AI.
Trust.
I hate the fact that they really killed the word woke too. That really bothers me because
I got you. It's a simple way to jailbreak it. It's so simple.
But this word woke though, man. I used to enjoy that word.
Yeah, it's a righteous word. We could bring it back.
But that's why I'm saying it's a war on language.
Yeah.
You see how they take
we
it
got to counterbalance.
in the tone, it means all these different things now. And it's like, bro, woke means to be aware.
Is enlightened.
To be enlightened.
Conscious.
To understand
It's
that the
aware.
world is a matrix.
It's aware. It's not sleep. It's the opposite of Sleepy Joe. It's the opposite of Sleepy Joe.
This is one of the biggest travesties since the Nazis took the swastika. It's one of the biggest rebrandings since LGBT took the rainbow. You understand me?
That's a fact.
It's like white supremacists taking the black fist.
That's a fact.
Right? All of a sudden, woke has been weaponized. And my theory
It's a
is
nasty
that
word now.
woke has been given a blank slate. So it's like saying, I can say that shit too woke, and I'm really saying that's some nigga shit. Right? I can say that's too woke, and I can be saying
that's some Karen shit.
Right, that's some Karen. So woke is now this word. Insert whatever bias meaning you really want it to mean.
So we are officially taking our word back. The word woke literally means to be awakened from sleep.
Awake, yeah.
Right? Figuratively speaking, is one who is enlightened to the bullshit that's going around. All right? So we're taking it back. I don't care what you feel about it. You're gonna hear me saying it, right? And I'm gonna rep it.
And you know what? I never really used the word hotep. Ever.
I didn't realize there was a negative connotation to that until
recently.
recently.
Because there's a lot of ignorant women turning into a negative connotation, and only ignorant women. And not only ignorant women, there's a lot of ignorant suckers too that do that. Yeah. But it only takes on negative in the hands of someone that is ignorant. This is the exact same. You know what now? If you connect the woke and the hotep, this is first, we taught them how to do this, right? They took the hotep, which is a representation of peace, right? And they turned it into a derogative term in the same way Hollywood has always made fun of the conscious black man.
What did hotep mean now?
Hotep it's a derogative way of describing somebody who's actively pro-black or overtly conscious, right? A person that does not say the normal terms of society like hello, but they may say rising. You understand me? Or they may say queen. And now this is starting to look at as a derogative thing, as if hip hop hasn't been calling women bitches and hoes and niggas and all of the things, right? But somehow we've casted this light on this segment of a population that wants to do things differently than the Europeanized way, and anybody that does that is now hotep.
Okay, so here a little bit of history on hotep. Imhotep was the world's first polymathic person, was the first multidisciplinary genius. He's the father of modern medicine, architect, so many different fields, right? So we have what's called the Pythagorean theorem, which was created 1,000 years before Pythagoras was born. And listen, and I'm not knocking the Greeks. The Greeks paid homage to their teachers. But somewhere down the line, you know, there was a rebranding and a miseducation of all people during times of colonization to make anything coming from the continent of Africa null and void. It all come from Rome and Greece, which is a fallacy. The entire world came to Timbuktu, Ghana, Kemet, which y'all call Egypt, to learn. The Kemetic mystery system was what, 16-year long education. Not many foreigners lasted the 16 years, right? Maybe Socrates or Plato, maybe one of them, but not many, right? And even in their writings, they wrote, man, I wish these Egyptians would just give us the knowledge. They're so stingy with the knowledge. But nah, there's a protocol. I can't go to Harvard and just want my degree in a year, right? So anyway, Imhotep is the king, is the dog, the top dog, the leader of all of that. So the word Hotep, I didn't realize that was derogatory, but I'm taking it back. That's a fire word. That's a fire word.
Yeah.
So,
and I'll be honest, I never use it. Only time I
haven't
hear
used
it
it
is
either.
when it's used derogatorily. You know what I'm saying? To describe somebody that's like Afrocentric.
I got
or
a
conscious.
homie named Hotep Jesus.
Yeah.
And I think that's the dopest name on earth.
But I feel like that's where we going now. It's kind of like, this is the taking all of the symbols back movement.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
we have
everything that was stolen and hijacked.
You're not taking nothing
we
from
want
you.
it. We want it all back. You know what I'm saying? Like, and this is a whole thing I like with Black China. You know what I mean? She started to give away her body back.
Okay.
All of the stuff that she bought.
I love it.
She put it in the checkout bag. She put it on her body. She put it on her butt. She put it on her gut. She put it on her lips. She put it on her chin. She put it on her hips. She went back in there and got a refund.
That's dope.
You know what I'm saying?
I love that.
And naturalists coming back in style.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. It's just as powerful. What she did is
That's high level.
so powerful. Just like,
And some people were shaming her for being a reborn again Christian.
that's wild.
I'm like,
listen, we rejecting all of that.
The
We're rejecting all of that.
shame movement to me is another thing. It's
Yeah,
like,
you can't be ashamed about anything. It's nothing. Listen.
so I don't agree with that. I think shame is a good thing.
Okay.
Shame.
Well, nothing that they try to put on you.
Right, yeah. But like, with the way they've reversed, and this is the way I see it, they reversed it, right? So, you remember high school shows back in the day?
Mm-hmm.
The high school students would do bad things, and then there would be a lesson that came from what they did. You know what I mean? And that lesson would be to not do it again.
Right.
Today, those same high school shows, they show the same things happening, but now there's no lesson. It's just don't be ashamed.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Accept yourself. Right? So this person could have, I don't know, he let's say a girl slept with like 10 guys. And the lesson that would have been built around that is like, don't give away your power and your value, and don't be a slut and all that. And now the lesson built around that is like, accept your sexual liberation.
City girl.
So yeah, city girl. So it's like there has been a reversal, right, in the language in which it means. The polarization has completely changed. Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in Theology of Time, a person has to be shamed before they can change. So I take that serious because I know about my own shadow self and flaws, and I think about what makes me change.
Right.
You understand me? And I have to be shown myself. I have to see my lower self and my higher self, right? And my higher self got to look at my lower self and be ashamed. Like, you're not living me. You're not me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You got to look down on my lower self like, bro, nah, the reason you feel shame, right, is to put you in that direction as a correction.
Yeah.
So when there's no accountability, you have no reason to grow.
That's a fact.
Right? So the question would be, who would be the voice that would tell you to not be ashamed? That'd be the devil, not God. The devil would be the one who would be the most proud of this generation and where it's going, not God.
Right.
And I'm talking about the devil in the way that it has been historically contexted and talked about, that the devil would say, do as thou will.
Well, the devil's real. I'm going to show you how. Just like in pop culture and hip hop, right? How a person can say the foulest thing about his brother, about somebody that looks like him. There's a song, this cat say, your wife, my bitch. There's a song where a cat say, I fucked the broke nigga bitch. That's throttled and celebrated, and you're paid to talk like that. That money coming from the devil. That's literally the devil being proud of this bizarre behavior. That's bizarre behavior. I was watching some old videos, right? I'm talking about back in the 60s or 50s, and they're showing these women on the beach like the new modern bikinis, right? these women were like, they were like, would you dress like this? They're like, no. They're like appalled. Like, why would you even ask me something like that? You know what I mean? So we have gotten into such a bizarre place, and I want to segue into like modern ways, right? I want to segue into like when we had what's called the women's liberation movement, right?
Yeah.
So
isn't that what's happening now?
First of all, yeah, it's a re-emerging of it. Women have always been liberated, they've been free, right? So what do y'all? It's interesting. They create a straw man argument. Women's lib, like they're not slaves, they're not captives, okay? Women were so well taken care of, so preserved, right? Women, the best thing about a woman to a man is her innocence. You know what I mean? It's her femininity, her beauty, but her innocence. That's for her husband, right? Men now, they're not getting an innocent woman because it's celebrated for a woman. Nah, do your thing. Like, you know, date, sleep with them, laugh about whatever. It's such a bizarre trajectory of the masculine and the feminine in this culture. And I was watching a program that I'd never seen before, a documentary about a woman that worked for Cosmopolitan magazine, and she was writing an article in the magazines. It was a fiction novel about this new cosmopolitan woman who smoked these long cigarettes, who had a high-paying job, that slept with a bunch of dudes and just had the life. She was living a life, right? So we all know that polarizing things gets attention, right? So back in their day, that shit was going viral.
Yeah.
It went so viral, they ran with it. And I see that happening today. Somebody will go viral with some kind of content by accident, then that becomes their identity.
We get to the point where so many young women today think to be free is to go to college, get a great degree, have a fantastic job, and be as sexually free as possible. How did those get joined together? Well, that was the question that people began to ask me after I had left Cosmo, and I began to investigate it. You have to understand a bit about how propaganda works. Propaganda isn't just a bunch of lies. People think, oh, propaganda, I can spot it in a minute because it's just a bunch of lies. No, propaganda is a very sophisticated, it's half-truth, selected truth, and truth out of context is used not to sell just products, it's also used to sell ideas. The feminist movement and the sexual revolution were two radically different movements. The feminist movement was fighting for equal opportunity for women in education and the workforce. The sexual revolution was fighting for all sorts of sexual freedoms. Cosmo, we pretended that this sexual revolution was a freedom for women. It actually was not. It was actually kind of a slavery. But we pretended it was freedom for women. And over time, as the sexual revolution and the women's movement got identified closer and closer together, a lot of women began to buy into that illusion.
But anyway, Cosmopolitan, that writer, she dug her heels in, and that became the energy of the Cosmopolitan magazine, right? So back then, that was social media, as a magazine. So they started really writing about women just doing their own thing, independence, go out there and explore, have sex with men, smoke your cigarettes, whatever. And that became just a real thing. And then we had another egregious act.
Well, I want to add on to that before you go into that. So from what I heard in a brief snippet about that is that it was supposed to be a parody.
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
but it was taken as it was real.
Mm-hmm.
And the cigarette thing ties back to Edward Bernays, the psychologist, you know, where when he first was popularizing cigarettes, a cigarette company came to him and said that we're losing 50% of smokers by not advertising to women because it was seen as an instrument and an extension of man's power. And so what he decided to do was, came up with this brilliant plan to where he hired all of these women models. They had it in their Stockton, and this was going to be at this protest. And he said, as soon as the protest starts, I want everybody to stand up, put a cigarette out their Stockton. They're going to have photographers taking pictures. They're going to be rolling. And then we're going to light the cigarettes, right? And then we're going to connect that, right? And call it the Freedom Torch, right? And so he wanted to connect this to women being rebellious against man. right? And the whole idea, as this propaganda started to be spread around, because press relations, as Elon Musk alluded to this week, was at first called propaganda, but it was too harsh of a word that couldn't be taken, so they turned it into, press relations, PR. So then women started smoking cigarettes, and so, it became connected to freedom and rebelliousness and women's power, but it was all based on capitalism and understanding the mechanisms of social behavior on how to connect emotions, all right, and change from desires from needs. And so he did that same thing with bacon. He connected it to a morning breakfast and a hearty breakfast and connected it to health. And so people start smoking cigarettes and eating bacon and all these other products that he helped come out. Right. And so, but look at all of the death and diabetes and disease that comes along with it. And you've seen that being played out in the movies, and people don't look at the movies and understand that they're pushing new products. They're priming society and creating new templates of human beings that you follow, because he would focus on the darkness of the human being, those unconscious desires, the dark side, and bringing those out. And so they've been priming human beings for new social behaviors so that they can fit new product lines, right? And so it's like when you take the image of a woman with the handbag and the cigarettes and this, that, and the third, this is been Frankenstein in corporate offices. This is not naturally you, right? So when I look at the movements of today, and it's like freedom, liberation, these are tag words that go along with campaigns. So my breakdown was this. Not Edward Bernays, but LVMH, owner of LVMH, one of the richest men in the world. When I look at anything, I follow the money. Products that have been sold more increasingly since women specifically are saying the women's empowerment. Alcohol, they are the top drinkers in the world now, right? Then you look at men that become effeminate, right? They buy purses now, right? Not only they buy a purse for themselves, they buy their girl purse. The girl is independent because she's an independent woman. She buys herself a purse. So what did you just do? You just increase purse sales by 3x, right? So these are a lot of things that a person connects and be like, no, they attach these words. No, you can be fluid, or fashion doesn't have sex, or these are not words that you've generated. These are prompts that have been given to society so that they can sell more products, because they realize like, we're going to decrease. And billion-dollar companies do not just think. They change reality.
This is where the communication is so important. So I just had a conversation with someone the other day in which they ran into a brick wall with myself, talking this fluid talk. I said, listen, the literal definition of fluid is liquid. That's it. It's not a change of sexual identity. It's liquid. Until y'all show me a difference, an amendment in Webster, that's not what it means.
What Huey say in Boondocks?
What is that?
Nigga, you
gay. But back to that cosmopolitan thing and this women's lib, right? So when I bring these things, these ideas, these facts to women, sometimes they're like, I'm like, what do you think? They're like, well, I don't like it, but you're right. It's just hearing facts. They don't want to hear it because it's triggering to their feelings, to what they've been programmed to. Part of that was also this, back to the capitalistic arm. The government instantly doubled the amount of people they can tax by pushing women into the workforce.
Absolutely.
Factory owners were able to increase their margins by paying women less than what they pay men. And they still do it now.
I mean, the same thing they did to us when they realized that we're going to be a great consumer base, because black people had income, right? Coming out of the 30s, 40s, 50s, they like, these are going to be a completely new workforce. Black people generate a lot of money and income. So like I said, we brag a lot about this 1.7 trillion spending power, but it's a consumer power.
We're not doing anything.
Everybody else loves our spending power more than us. They look at it and say, how much you say? All right, let's make campaigns specifically for them. Listen, and so they get all our money.
And we are the most influential. That's why if you look at the emergence of hip-hop music, first of all, Black intellect has designed all music, right? And you'll be hard pressed to say any music that is not generated in the United States is the leader of all music. It started with rock, right? But that's the blues. So that's the genesis of all of this is blues. So let's say hip hop. Hip hop has taken over and it's become a global phenomenon, right? This is a music that came out of people who had nothing, who had no instruments, who had to use their parents' records to create harmonies and chant over it to like get people hype at parties.
Man, we own all music, bro.
Brilliant. So you look at music and from its genesis to where it's now and the process of it, how we've completely changed what marketing looks like by attaching ourselves, our personalities to said brand, and now we're brands. You know what I mean? There was never a Jordan before Michael Jordan. You know what I'm saying? So once Jordan happened, Kobe, LeBron, everybody could have a shoe, Shaq. You know what I mean? And they seen that that was a viable and a effective marketing tactic.
And they got all of that. And this is the one thing I just want people to understand, that every marketing tactic comes from a psychologist, studying human beings, going and consulting these companies, saying that we found this about the human brain, and this is the way you can sell. Right. And so like we call them marketers now, but these are psychologists. Like they're really hacking the human brain. They're taking these studies.
They have understanding of
it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they will be the ones who fund these studies. Right. Like this is the way you think you're always getting, nowadays, they got data that can be collected directly off the computer and things of that nature. But before that, right, they had the fund studies and they had to have psychologists come in and teach them about the human brain. And so now they've perfected these things, right? That at first they had famous scientists and famous psychologists for, now they have algorithms for it. And I just want people to detach from social constructs and in certain ways so that they can understand like what to you was natural and then what you've been primed for. Like what makes you cattle that you get branded and you're going to follow like a sheep. And so there's so many things that's why I like when people have their own brands. I like when people create their own philosophies towards life. I don't like people who follow along with the trends, who use agenda words, propaganda words, right? Because you're literally, pushing, you're soldiers for somebody's war campaign. Right? That's not your strategy. So that lets me know you a sheep and you think you fighting for freedom. The whole time you building somebody's jail. You understand me? And that's not real. So there's only going to be a certain amount of people that gain freedom, because freedom has to be gained, internally. Right? You have to go inside yourself and deconstruct your mind and give yourself freedom there. But people look for freedom externally, which is why they never free. I get a car, I get some more money. That's not freedom. Freedom only exists in one place, and that's in your mind.
How would you define freedom?
Freedom is when you have control over your mind and your will. So if anybody controls your mind and your will, they become your slave master. And I'm talking by any degree, because you can be a slave to a degree, but not fully a slave. But because we look at slavery in the context of chattel slavery, I'm not locked up on somebody's plantation. That's not the only form of slavery. A man can be so well versed in the mind that he can control you through strategies, through habits, manipulations. There's people in relationships with narcissists and then they become slaves of the relationship. So, freedom, you can be a slave by your vices. Crackheads were slaves by their vices. Drug addicts are slaves by their, and now we're slaves by devices, right? So it's like being able to control your mind and your will, right? That's where you can find freedom, and it's degrees to that.
Yeah, I love your breakdown on freedom, and I totally agree with it. The only thing I would add also is, for one, to be able to take what is looked at as a slaver and enslave it, like devices. That's my bitch. My device is my bitch. You know what I mean? I take that device and I make so much money with it. I create so much impact with my device. I can reach millions of people every day, and I do. So that's another degree of it. And listen, I'm all about people having real sovereignty. I'm all about people being really free. It's just like, it's as simple as like you in my town and I tell you like, yo, what's a good hookah spot tonight? And I tell you, and you go and you enjoy it. You know what I mean? Me sharing the benefits of one having a free mind, I get that same like joy out of you trying it for yourself, and it works out for you. You know, my circle, you know, like we are connected, but we have our other people, and they're all free, and I love that. You know what I'm saying? And I love when, like, I have friends now that live in two different friends that just got up and moved to different countries because the quality of life is higher and the cost of living is lower. And just to experience different cultures, I think that's the flyest shit in the world. Because people think they got to be stuck here in America.
Nah, see, that's another level of freedom, is like being borderless.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Correct.
globalization, like the idea that it's no better slave than one who protects a neighborhood he don't own.
Correct.
Right? You're protecting a plantation, right? So now you've become security, right, to this environment
that you have no equity in.
That you have no equity in. That's probably the best kind of slave. You know what I mean? Because he is enslaving himself and finding pride on his plantation, right? And so that's such a dangerous mindset, because you have so much fear, you're afraid to leave this place.
Correct.
Right? And you think you're a gangster. And there's nothing gangster about being fearful of leaving your street and exploring the world.
And I tell you one thing. One thing that I realized when I first started traveling the world, going to different countries, is I know when I was younger, I used to think as a black man, like, man, shit is fucked up for me, right? But when I started traveling the world, I'm like, yo, I'm that guy. This the guy. This the G.O.D.
Yeah.
You know, and when I seen people's reverence of me, of my accent, my culture, and it would be like, you know, when I lived in Dubai, like my shorty out there was from Ethiopia. She used to work for Etihad, and she was like, the English is shady, is limited. So she's just like, I love you. I was like, well, you just met me. I just love you.
Only a few words to know.
She says, I don't know how to explain. She's like, I don't know, you like 50 Cent. I don't know, 50 Cent. No, because I said, but you live in Africa, it's all black men. She said, it's different. You guys are different.
Yeah.
The world looks at us like as exotic, right?
Well, we are different.
We are different because
extremely.
Look, it's a Cinderella story. We've been treated like shit, and we still here. We ain't dead. We're not extinct, right? We rose stronger. And we rose stronger and lit a fire under the world's ass. We are the survivors of the people that were on slave ships, packed in like sardines, when most of them did not make it. Right. You know, they speak of the numbers of the Holocaust. The Black Holocaust was a lot greater. Just in the Congo alone, Leopold killed something like 20 million blacks, if not more, and then maimed double that, cut men's hands off. What are you gonna do with no hands as a man in a time of agriculture? That's the most foul thing you could do to somebody. But then the journey over here, the amount of deaths that we had, and then the harsh conditions, especially like in Haiti, which was the harshest. They had the most amount of slaves there and people coming in and out of there because people would die so often, you know, in the sugar fields, you know what I'm saying? So we're the most powerful, the most formidable. Like, we are the survivors of the people that were on slave ships, packed in like sardines, when most of them did not make it. Right. You know, they speak of the numbers of the Holocaust. The Black Holocaust was a lot greater, right? I mean, just in the Congo alone, Leopold killed something like 20 million blacks, if not more, right? And then maimed double that, cut men's hands off. What are you gonna do with no hands as a man in a time of agriculture? You know what I'm saying? That's the most foul thing you could do to somebody, right? But then the journey over here, the amount of deaths that we had, just the journey, and then the harsh conditions, especially like in Haiti, which was the harshest. They had the most amount of slaves there and people coming in and out of there because people would die so often, you know, in the sugar fields. You know what I'm saying? So we're the most powerful, the most formidable. They created monsters.
Bro, the thing about us is that no other people on the planet Earth has produced this amount of social justice and change around the world. None, by far. There's not even close competition. Not even close. Not even a close second. Black men and women have fought for freedom, justice, and equality. And the reason I believe is because we know how to recognize our enemy greater than anyone else. Right? The African cannot recognize his enemy. Right? He doesn't know this is a Chinese man. He doesn't know if it's the white man. He doesn't know if it's his brother. He doesn't know it's the systems. He doesn't have that, right? Not the way we've been able to recognize it, identify it, and create campaigns against it, right? And this has been black men and women for the last 200 years, right? Going back from Frederick Douglass creating abolitionist campaign to John Horse fighting his wars in the Seminole Wars. So we have been really great at, you know, taking what we do, and that trickles across the world, right? Like, you talking about freedom of religion. If it wasn't for like black people bringing Islam to America, you don't get that around across the planet Earth, right? So like everybody owes us a thank you for that. You talking about women's rights. Women's rights wouldn't have went nowhere without black women joining on to that movement, making noise for it, right? Like, that's the campaign. You talk about human rights. Malcolm X was out there pushing human rights, right? You talking about, you know, just restoring the black man to his glory, saying that you a god. That's the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Correct.
You understand me? You talking about brothers giving a breakdown of nationalism, a nationality rather. That's Noble Drew Ali, right? You teaching brothers financial literacy and creating science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics program, STEAM. That's Marcus Garvey. Are you talking about coming up with the food program that's all around the U.S. now? That's the Black Panthers, right? So like, we create these things and the world benefits from it. The single-handed way to make America great is to invest in the black man.
I agree 100%. And for education to be curated in a way to where people start giving homage to those who really paved ways and created the framework of this nation. I even heard Trump saying it, right? Those who know, you know? So people need to stop with the bullshit. There's a lot of the negative, vehement energy that comes towards us is because people are mad, like they don't want to admit certain things. They don't want to have a reparation conversation. They don't want to give a formal apology in Congress, which we asked for 20 years ago.
But see, that's the thing, is they don't understand that this is what reconditions America, makes it a power player. They have, it's such a spiritual, emotional, and psychological deficit inside the hearts of the citizens in America that they're afraid to allow the black man to gain power. Yet this is what will allow you to become a superpower in a way where nobody can mess with you if you stop trying to put your foot on the neck of the black man. This war is costing you the world. You have the world in your palm, and yet you keep fighting your greatest,
you're running out of resources.
The greatest value, the greatest asset in America. Right? The ideas that get generated in the hood, like look at the culture, we move the world. But you're so afraid of replacement instead of having collaboration that you can't even use your greatest warriors.
And
we not your warriors, but we are the greatest warriors.
Right. We can be such allies if that foot is removed. Here's the thing. While you got the foot on us, it's cool because it's making us powerful. It's making us strong because it's obviously not killing us.
No, I can't do that.
You couldn't do it in all of this time.
That's not a possibility.
But with that stress, with that pain that we've endured, we became extremely powerful, extremely resilient, right? And see, this is why, circling back to what we was first debating about earlier, these are the things, the codes that need to be unlocked in our people. You are immensely powerful with emotional resilience, with physical resilience, with intellectual resilience, right? But they don't know it right now. They're not even thinking on that level. And that's what I want people to wake up to. Listen, we live in a culture, there's not a culture of mantras here, right? We live in a culture of, if you compliment somebody, they're like, nah, I ain't nothing, man, I ain't nothing. Like, nah. Accept your glory and revel in it and appreciate it. Get goosebumps when somebody compliments you because it's real, right? Somebody is casting a spell on you when you're rejecting it, a good spell, the kind that you should accept.
Right.
So not just that, the most powerful spell one can put upon you is what you could put upon yourself, is that self-talk, is that positive self-talk. And we don't employ that tactic at all, right? That needs to be normal.
That's a fact.
I sit in the sauna, sometimes I'm by myself, when I'm there a little bit late and it's empty, I'm I'm reciting my mantras and I'm chanting my spells out loud. And when people come in, I don't even chant it. I keep staying where I'm at. They be so amazed by that. They be waiting to talk to me about, hey, so, you know, so these are, and this is not just me. There's others that practice these tactics and it works, right? Listen, we have movies like The Secret. Remember that? That's ancient wisdom. You know what I mean? So people got to understand the things that you tell yourself, you're right. So if you start telling yourself all this negative shit, which you shouldn't, you should love yourself better than that. It's going to manifest. So tell yourself positive things, right? I was working out with one of my guys this morning. He's like, man, I can't go out that heavy. Like, yo, stop doing it. Why would you tell yourself that? You absolutely can. Let's go.
Right,
I see how strong you are, and I'm exalting him, and he felt that, and it felt good.
But that's
to him.
crazy. But I think that's the idea, is that the mind is naturally defeatist. The mind is naturally trying to protect you. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because self-preservation kicks in to say, do nothing and live long.
Yeah.
So you have to create an inverse mindset against it, which is because that's not a negative mindset per se. It's a positive because it's preservation,
it's
right? So you going against that and saying that no, I'm going to do it. You have to grow for it.
Right.
Muscles are growing because you putting them under tense scrutiny and structure and saying, well, if you go do that, I got to get bigger then.
People got to understand that the nature of human advancing society and becoming I mean, we run this planet, right? That's a huge feat, because if you put us one-to-one with any animal, they'll fuck us up, right? But now we have this. Some of us had the ability to reprogram ourselves to not just be lazy and efficient, right? To get up and go hunt, but figure out modern, more advanced ways of achieving things that we needed, like fire or whatever it is. So that's the energy that we have to stay on. The ones that really want to evolve and really enjoy. Look, we're talking about all of this stuff. I don't want it to sound dark. People like us enjoy the fuck out of life.
Yeah, no, this is light.
This is great, right? The fact that we are the way that we are, that we think the way that we think, so we do the things that we do, we live the American dream, what those consider the dream. That's having enough money to do whatever you want to do. Yeah. So people got to understand that. I want to appeal to the low-hanging fruit. If that's the only way I can get to you, you're going to live the life that you have been dreaming about, and you absolutely can have it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the beauty of life. This is a blank canvas. You know what I'm saying? Like we like, I'm going on tour right now, right?
Shout out to that. That's major.
Thank you. You're in the high level tour.
Let's talk about it.
AKA the Guys Outside tour.
Guys Outside.
And taking a step back and looking at it from the outside, you know, from living my own life, is a person to be like, how? Like, so you're not a rapper? No, I'm not a rapper. So like, for most people, that's all they got for me. So you're not a rapper, so how? Right? You're not a singer, right? But it's like, no. See, the world can be shaped in many different forms and fashions. Right? We can decide to make ourselves something. Right? I'm not a comedian, even though I'm extremely hilarious, right? From a scale from, you know, Martin Lawrence to Dave Chappelle, I'm up there.
I'm on Dave Chappelle level.
Yeah, what I'm saying. But it's like, you know, when, you know, we've been able to do high-level conversations and create an outlier in the world of shows, right? Because we don't do podcasts, we do shows specifically because as I was sitting down and I was trying to watch this, and I've watched this video like 3 times. It's one video I keep watching because it has so much information. Sometimes I go back over and over and over till the information is in me, right? It's not that I memorize it, I understand it to where I can come up with my own analogies and I understand the concept. But sometimes I spend, so if you get a little bit into my head of thinking, I spend, you know, hours watching the same 40-minute clip over and over, and then I will study that, then I'll move forward in the video when I feel like I gotten that. So by the time I get to the last part of the video, I've become an expert on the first part, which allowed me to understand the rest of it in a completely different manner. Right, so that's part of my thinking process. But so as we went and approached high-level conversations, we had to do it in a manner to where, and I brought up that video because that video is low quality.
Which video is it?
it's just a video of Robert Greene talking, and it's at some random school, right? But and the average person may not get as much as I get out of it, but there's certain information I come across, and it clicks because it compounds on other information that I have in ways that I can teach certain things, right? So it was talking about strategy, but the video context or the production is very bland. It's just him standing there talking. The average person could not get through that video, because he kind of speaks a little monotone.
Yeah, he's not exciting or compelling.
But I know that boring knowledge is where the greats are made. That's like the gym. You know what I'm saying? Like entertaining knowledge, everybody can pick up the 20 pounds, right? But that boring knowledge, them hundreds in there, like that's where you them the steroids. You get strong on those. So. But I was thinking, I said, okay, this is why we work so well, though. Because I don't really want to replace that clip of Robert Greene with my Netflix time, with my Prime Video time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would much rather click this over and go watch something entertaining. So I said, okay, let's make high-level conversations where it's not a sacrifice. It's a flow. I can watch Wu-Tang, and I can watch high-level conversations. Right? Because it's entertaining, it's rich in color, it's vibrational, the topics, the analogies, the B-roll. So I went and approached it with that mindset, and it worked, Mike. You know what I mean? You've been on it, right? I think it was on the second episode.
Yeah, listen, not only does it work, like, I'm your peer, and there's not many of my peers who I can sit and watch their shows, but I watch yours. Matter of fact, certain episodes I'm not interested in just because of the guests, right? But the ones that I am, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to watch this. I do the same with Joe Rogan when I'm on that wave, you know what I mean? So yours is very informal, informational, and also entertaining, and it's fly. It's my energy. So I relate, you know, and there's a lot of people out there that's on the level or is trying to ascend to the level that fucking appreciate it. And you see that with the fanfare.
Yeah, and see that gets me to the tours, like, these things don't become possible until you talked about earlier, like being able to utilize the tools that we have access to today, right? Like the gatekeepers have not unlocked the gate. It's just I found a gate where they didn't know existed. You know what I'm saying? Everybody kept trying to go through their gate. That was the problem. And then they never said you can't come up with your own gate. You can't circumnavigate. Oh, that was a bar.
Bars.
So the idea is like the mainstream, and I give this analogy, right? Like when you think about the mainstream, you got the water up there, right? That's a stream, right? That mainstream, let's say it runs to the city, right? And if you drop some poison in that mainstream, it's going to get to the taps of everybody in that city, right? But if you drop some sea moss or something in there, right, it's going to get to the streams as well. So I said, okay, well, how do you get to mainstream? Because black excellence or black brilliance, the way that our success is justified is that it has to be orchestrated by these forces. It can never be natural strategy and intelligence. So it doesn't really make you want to be successful because you connected to, right, the orchestration of the agenda and the gatekeepers. But that's not so. It's not the reality whatsoever. For some people, it absolutely is. But for individuals like myself and the ones that will come in after we show you how to circumnavigate, it's not the same. So you got this mainstream where all the information goes through the mass populace, right? Then you got, you know, the underground, right, where you have your little pools, you have your little lakes and your rivers, and people can commune around them, and that's great. But it won't get to the mass population, right? That's all the mainstream is. It's a route to get to everybody. So it's like, let's say you see me on Breakfast Club, right? I remember a long time ago, Derek Grace trying to get on Breakfast Club, and it was gonna be like a payola situation. For some reason, last minute they wouldn't let him. Can't tell you why. I know there's been many of my peers and other people that wanted to get on that show because it was top show. So it was like, okay, well, they only let certain people on. Well, how did you get on there then, Keys? You must be working with the gatekeepers. Nah. See, I have a strategy in life, right? One of my grand strategies is collaboration. That's always been my key, right? Great military geniuses have grand strategies and philosophies, right? People that have tactics, right? They can only react to circumstances and moments and try to figure out the best thing to do at that time. But a grand strategist can take a complete step back, look at the landscape, and say, well, there's a gate, but I see them people keep going through the gate. How they get past this? How about if I go walk up to that gate, they go say, where's your wristband? Where's your pass? You can't go. I say, well, what if I collaborate with them who have a pass to go through the gate, right? And they got a pass to go through the gate because this deal that they have is connected that says that, hey, if you do this deal with us, you get a pass to go through the gate. So I didn't go through that person because I can't go in that room. I went over here, right? Some real people that happen to get a pass, and I say, well, if I do a deal with y'all, let me get a pass too. And when I go there, I'm gonna sprinkle some gold water into the mainstream, right? So this is the strategy on how we do things. Then we say, okay, well, that's one way. What about over there? They say, well, what's over there? Look, ain't no gates over there. This is a access route. They created this called YouTube. Right now, if you do this collaboration, normally, right, in order for you to reach the masses in the way that you have to do it, you got to pay a lot of money, right? You got to have, these other back end things set up. How about we collaborate, and we've already built up these organic audiences, right? And through this collaboration, this will equal out the value of this thing. Plus, if we add in YouTube, which allow you to circumnavigate the gatekeeping of media and reach the masses, now you can create your own system, right? Combining all of these different strategies of going to these different places, creating relationships, networking, building your own thing, being your own boss, putting up your own money, right? And this is a thing that people try to compete, and it's like, bro, you have to be willing to put up your own money if you go compete. I didn't have no sponsors whatsoever. We paid out everything out of pocket, every single dollar, from the camera people, the graphics, the flyers, the locations, everything coming out of pocket. So it's like, then I took a step back and I said, this is why it's so hard to do this. It's not just so much that there's a grand orchestration of not allowing black media to get ad dollars, which don't allow you to grow. That exists 100%, and all black media around the world is dealing with this currently. But I'm thinking about the person that's starting off, and they thinking about, you blame everybody for your success or your failures. Oh, y'all don't want to let me in. No, you got to take a step back, partner. You going with tactics. Complaining is a tactic, right? Protesting is a tactic. It's not a strategy. When you take a strategy, it's different. It's like when Martin Luther King went out there, protest as a tactic. The strategy or the grand strategy was nonviolence. I'm going to take this approach to make them look inhumane, which now I can move these pieces across the board, right? And so when you learn how to think as a grand strategist, like a military strategist, then there is no gatekeeping. There's just the route that you need to take in order to be successful, right? Because those people have set up these routes on purpose because it's for people who figure it out. It's not for everybody, right? And then you understand this last piece. Hannibal Barca, when he would go and campaign, he would meet all of the locals and he would recruit some of them, right? He would get supplies and resources, and he would get the intelligentsia of that community. They would give him the land and the layout of the land, rather, and they would teach him along the way. And this is how he was able to go against Rome, right? This was one of his strategies. So what we do is we connect with people in these so-called governed, gatekept institutions, and you realize, like, yo, the world has changed. I can now have a direct conversation with the president of this huge corporation, and they may be connected in a way where it's like, yo, I watch your content, I love you. Let's figure out a way to work together. And you're like, well, what does that look like? Well, we can't work with you on this piece, but hey, 19 Keys, you teach a lot of blockchain. We got this blockchain department. Maybe we can slide you a check to come over here. So now you're like, how is 19 Keys over here and here and here and doing this? It's because we came up with a grand strategy before we just started doing tactical things. Soldiers have tactics. Generals have strategies. And so you got a soldier trying to fight a war that can only be won by a general, right? And this is why I try to teach people to look at things differently, right? Stop looking at them from your viewpoint. You have to take a step back. You have to study the roots of these things, the history of these things, how these organizations form, why, who are the power players, how can you set yourself up? You have to have a vision and then go and live upon that, internalize that, and let that be your movement, right? So now we're at this point where the grand strategy as a campaign movement, and we get to go on tour, right? So we got brothers like yourself. I built up a relationship with you for years. Everybody that's on the tour, I built up a relationship, whether it's Wall Street Trapper, whether it's EYL, whether it's Master Investor, whether it's my bro Aristotle, it's my bro Billy Carson, Yaki. Like, these are relationships, and many more people. Blue pill, red people, red pill. I don't think you can say that now. Blurt that out. I can't even put out your flyer, bro. Look how you red now. Yeah. But it's like this is why a lot of people don't succeed, because they don't do all the layers, and it seems like a lot, but it's living. Right. So I do this for fun. I find joy in purposeful things. Right. And this is purposeful. So when we do this tour, it's not just my tour, it's the people's tour. This ain't about money. This is about changing and shifting things. Because if I can do it successfully, then everybody can do it now. Right. So we have to learn how to support things like this, because it's a representation of a new time. It's a representation of a new tide. And new strategies get to be employed successfully. So now we can have examples to say, hey, this is the case precedence. Listen, I am an outlier in a lot of the ways that I think, but strategy and systems can be applied by anybody. Correct. So let's do this together. This is the highest level.
And I'm honored to be on a tour with you. And I'm also like...
I just need Mike Rashid to show up and do 100 push-ups.
We do that. We run 200, 300. And also, in accordance to a brotherhood that we do have, I'm letting you know that I'm going to use my platform, and you can use my platform as much as you want.
Man, I appreciate you having me on here.
To promote this like it's my thing.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Because it's very important that, to me, see, the last thing you said, I was like, you said it's not money, it's about impact. It's about, and that's I can honestly say that, and yeah, I'm in a very financially blessed situation, but it is what it is. I don't care about money. I don't. Money don't make me do things, right? I make a lot more money than what people think that I make, because I don't show anything, right? Because I'm not leading with that, right? So you said something that just resonates with me. It's about impact. Everybody that I'm working with on the projects that I'm working on, I always drive, like, people that's outside people that's coming in, I say it's about, I want the biggest impact. You know what I'm saying? It's not about the money. A lot of things that I work on, I come out of pocket with. It's not like a net positive. It is what it is.
A tour is it's interesting doing it, because you learn a lot. Like, I know how to make digital money, right?
It's so easy.
So, like, my digital skills is completely different. Going on tour is a very, costly thing, number one. It's a very, it's strenuous on you, right? So, like, you talking about back-to-back dates. Like, we did back-to-back dates in Toronto. That was a lot, because you have to preserve so much energy for each show, right? And so doing a tour, not only is it physically straining, right, but it's also financially straining, right, to where it really becomes for the people versus you, where you like, I could have sat back home all that time and figure out a completely different way to make money, and I would have made 10x that. So it's like, that's why I want people to understand, like, it's not about the money. When I say that, I'm saying that because of that reason. We're going to make some money, because I'd be a fool if I don't figure out profit.
Listen, I can, in Oakland, I can scan the room, I can assess the building. I know what are big money generators, and I know when somebody is doing something because it's important to them. And Oakland, he's from Oakland, he's raised in Oakland. It's a reason why we're here. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's not money, right? And of course, you know how to get to the bag. It's the keys right here, baby.
We go figure that
unlock
out
the banks. You feel me?
That's no problem.
But the overarching energy of the movement is impact. And it's so important to me, because I align myself with people who I feel like are doing what I'm doing or what I'm trying to do, and that's just have a powerful impact. Look, when I was young, I used to want to change the world, right? So, like, I was very ideological, I knew how things should be, and I'm going to teach everybody. And when I went to college, I'm like, my professors, I'm going to debate. I'm going to tell them what's up. But I got humbled. I got humbled by powerful minds, powerful, experienced minds. And I was like, dang. I didn't feel defeated, but I felt like, all right, change the strategy. It's not standing up yelling at everybody on what to do. The strategy is for me to be as good a person as I can, live in my purpose. Whoever I marry will be the same. My kids will be like that. My friends will be like that. Their friends will be like that. And it's spread like that. Yeah. Man, look at what we are now. But real quick, look where we are now. That's real. And now we have these microphones and these phones and social media to amplify who we are. Right. And put that out to the world.
Nah, it's beautiful, bro. It's super beautiful. I was just going to add on to it because just in that thought process, like you have to find a strategy that works for you, right? Everybody has different strengths, and sometimes we play into other people's strengths. This is why we constantly lose. It don't mean that they're greater than you. It just means you playing their game, right? It's like the reason I don't debate people, right? No forms of debate for real, right? We have ciphers, we build, but my superpower is logic. I'm a complete mathematical thinker, right? So you can't debate logic. Because I'm putting up walls. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying I built this. This is a wall. This wall exists. Don't it exist? And then that's the end of the conversation. What is there to debate? Or you may say, well, the wall could exist maybe only because we perceive it. Well, then your perception is real. Well, I agree with your perception. That's logical, right? Wherever angle you go, all right, I'm going to find where the logic is, and I'm just going to stand firm on that because that's standing on truth, right? But debate is playing into someone else's game, right, purposely for you to lose. So it's setting a trap and saying if you fall in the trap, right, then now this is my game over. And this is the way people play with other people's life. Like you constantly playing somebody else's game, right, and you constantly losing because you don't never set it up towards your strengths. You haven't set it up for game theory. You haven't set it up for your weaknesses. And this is where the great customization of human beings are going to go. It's going to be like that with, I think AI can assist some people in really customizing their life towards their strengths. But you have to be intelligent enough to know how to utilize AI to do that, which requires a level of self-awareness. I use AI for a lot of self-awareness. It has taught me so much about myself, not direct teaching, but the way I use it, I'm learning on how my own brain works. Like people always ask me about AI and they want to know about the money making side. I'm like, you're starting off with it wrong, in my opinion. There's so much ways to make money. You don't need AI to do that. If you want to do it to enhance the way you make money, that's fine. People that know how to make money see AI and they start making more money because it's a tool that can enhance your natural intelligence. But when it comes to self-awareness, you have a therapist there. You have a psychologist right there. You have every customizable test that you can take in order to improve yourself, to know yourself in this era, which is the most important thing right now. So I sit down there and I have AI like, come up with this test, right? And I need you to measure what this means right afterwards. So, and give me ways that I can figure out how to become better in these areas. So by the time I'm done sitting in front of the computer, I'm a better enhanced person. Right? Now, that to me is the best way to use it.
Power to people just now. You realize how much power you gave to a lot of people?
I hope they take it. I hope you take it.
Facts. Yo. All right, proceed.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, this is why I focus on using tools. And this is the most dangerous thing, and I just want to let you all know. Most dangerous thing is asking people how to use it. You destroy your ability to think the moment you do that, and you start using it based on their prompt and their programming.
Which plays to their powers.
Because they did that because that's where their natural intelligence went. Where does your natural intelligence go? You have to get a sense of self. So there's a loss of a natural sense of self and self-awareness that people don't even know. And so the plagiarism of this era is, oh, what's working for you? Oh, well, I'm going to do the same thing. Then you follow the leader again. Okay, I'm gonna wait for this person to do something creative, and this person don't do nothing that stars reality. Kanye West don't come out with some new crazy campaign. Now other rappers don't copy.
I've seen this in my life. Like there's been periods of my life. We're gonna end soon where I'm always the genesis and the generator of all things, right? And then that season is done for me. I move on. I look back. These people are dormant. It's like y'all couldn't think of nothing. Y'all stop working out. Y'all not fly no more. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. But Brother Keys, like, yo, thank you for sharing this time and space with me. You know, I've learned so much sitting with my brother.
Likewise, my brother.
You know, and it's fun. It's dope. I love sitting and building with you.
Yes, sir.
You know, we don't have, it's a few of us sprinkled around, but when we come together, it's powerful.
Man, that's the beauty of it. That's the protocol, man. We you know, I meet so many different universal people, man, from all different walks of life and background. You know, and it's been beautiful because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad promised us money, good homes, friendships of all walks of life. So now to be able to start to live within that promise, I think is key. And one thing I always stress with people is like, I'm not perfect, I'm growing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no perfect human beings, but the greatest of us are constantly learning and developing ourselves.
Correct.
Like, I fight my shadow self. I'm learning to develop myself past my own flaws, and the way I'm doing that, same way I talk about strategy, I'm taking a step back and I'm taking a look back of why. Right? Like, I would shame myself for doing certain things and be like, you better than that.
Correct.
Right? And some things are harder to course correct than others, but as long as you keep doing it, that makes you a good person.
Right.
The moment you just accept your lower self, you fall into that realm of that crystallized unconsciousness, that crystallized ignorance.
It's all right. So what you're talking about is part of my 5 core values.
Yes, sir.
And number 1 for me is accountability.
Yes, sir.
With accountability, you will correct errors. Bless. Accountability does not allow one to proceed in an improper manner. Bless. Once anyone around me, I implore, like, yo, if you don't tell me when I'm off square, you don't care about me, and I can't fuck with you, right? But I typically know when I'm fucking up, and I course correct immediately.
Yeah.
That's number 1 for me and my core values. Brother Keys, so when does the tour start and where we starting at?
It started on my birthday at the famous Apollo Theater.
My hometown, baby.
So in Harlem, you know what I'm saying, with the guys.
Well, Brooklyn, my hometown, but New York City is my hometown too.
It's beautiful because, you know, the Apollo Theater is very famous.
Iconic.
And, you know, nothing like this, I believe, from my knowledge, has ever happened there before. And so this is, for me, you know, stamping a new era, you know what I'm saying, and a change. And, you know, we do beautiful collaborations. Me and my brother Ernie Leisure, we travel around the world. You know, this tour, this the Guys Outside tour. This is where we say what we want tour. You know what I'm saying? That's the beauty of it. It's like we get to be free. People talk about safe spaces, and this is that space. You know what I'm saying? Where it's safe to be dangerous. Right? And it's safe to show up as yourself, show up in your full regalia. Right? And it's my born day. Right? So it's gonna be even more special, and you know, I want people to come there in a celebratory mood. I want you to come there decadent, man. Come there like fly, like I want you to smell good, look good. You know what I'm saying? I want you to put on your best frames, your best shoes. Come on, man. Put the crown on when you step in. Take your sip of gold water. Put some Pure Moss in your system, man. Like let's do it like that. Like, you know, listen to some Mozart before you get there. Then some Jay Leck a little bit, something before you get there. You feel me? Turn yourself up, but control yourself. Like, let's go there for transformation and community. And so we start there May 4th. Then of course we got like Baltimore, Detroit, and Philly, and all of Texas, and St. Louis, right? Another one of my home cities. So that's gonna be special as well. I know personally, Wall Street Trapper and Yaki gonna be in St. Louis. Crazy. That's gonna be a crazy lineup, first of all. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, there's a bunch of cities on there, and we're working to put on the international dates, and we don't have a West Coast date, so we're working on that venue out here. So, you know, listen, no matter where you at, fly in for the Apollo Theater. It's gonna be a special night. If you thought Drake did something there, watch them Keys get in the building. Yeah.
Well, I'll definitely be in the building.
Yes, sir.
New York, Chicago, Houston.
Chicago. You gonna be there with my brother Master Investor. That one's gonna be crazy.
Perfect. And then, and I'm looking forward to it, and I'm gonna do everything I can to bring as much to the table. And June, we're in Miami.
Yes, sir.
For another powerful event, Sacred Society.
Yeah. So y'all can't say I ain't put Miami on the date. That's why I work with my brother.
You know? And that's gonna be something special as well. We trying to get people some real breakthroughs.
Yeah.
And start the reprogramming process.
And you know, each one of these dates, I'm doing something different. Like, that's the beauty of coming to my show. You can go to every single last one, and you're going to get a completely different experience in each one. You know, I really want to home in on completely different topics each round I go. and really focus and customize it towards those cities.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So I would suggest you get a tour pass. We ain't even got that yet, but figure it out.
Right. Now this is beautiful, man. I'm excited. I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
I'm excited to be next to you, shoulder to shoulder, fighting this beautiful fight.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, on that note, yo, we out of here.
Peace. Oh, I gotta do this call with Dane Dash and these VIP people.
Okay.